Welcome to Pop Culture Retro, which was recently voted the 15th best podcast by the residents of the Golden Years Retirement Community in Boca Raton, Florida. Each show, we'll revisit some of your favorite pop culture memories with insider and outsider perspectives. Now, please help me welcome your hosts, Ike Eisenmann and Jonathan Rosen.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Pop Culture Retro. I am one of your hosts, Jonathan Rosen, along with the man who famously lost his innocence in the back of a limo to an inebriated and slightly handsy Betty Davis on Return from Witch Mountain. Here's Ike Eisenmann. Ike.
Well, you need to include the fact that Christopher Lee and Anthony James were in the limo too, but so to be fair.
Okay, before we get sued from the Betty Davis estate, that did not happen. I just want to say.
Oh God, that's great. That's great.
Well, today we are finally back to another edition of our Forgotten Films segment. And talking to you during the week, it seems like we've devolved into who's going to torture each other the most in our selections of films.
Well, yeah, it seems like that's our new goal. I'm not quite sure why, but the very
I did
idea
that on this one, but I do have one that will.
No, it just tried my patience. That's all. So that's not really torture. That's just yeah.
Well, we are talking about. I chose. It was my turn, so I selected the 1980, comedy caper, How to Beat the High Cost of Living. It starred Jane Curtin, Susan St. James, Jessica Lange, and also featured Dabney Coleman, Richard Benjamin, Fred Willard, who was almost unrecognizable in there for me for some reason, and your old friend Eddie Albert. So yeah. So I had forgotten about that Eddie Albert was in it actually. When I have not seen this film in over 30 years, and I selected it because I liked it as a kid. It was on cable all the time. When I was growing up, it was like one of those things that they must have got the early things of cable, and they got the rights to it, so they just went over and over and over again. So I watched it a lot back then, and I enjoyed it then. But I'm going to let you go your thoughts first. I already got a little bit of sense how you felt from what you said.
Well, I know, but actually,
let's read the synopsis.
Let's do a little synopsis so people know, because believe me, this film is forgotten by most people.
Yes, it absolutely is, I'm sure. So in it, we have three housewives. Two of them are divorced. One's already divorced, Susan St. James. One gets divorced as the movie started, Jane Curtin, and Jessica Lange. I guess her marriage, she's not divorced, but she's having a little bit of problems in it. So they're all struggling. It was remember the end of the Carter years. So a lot of, inflation, a lot of high costs on things. So they need a scheme to get some money quick. They have a lot of bills piling up, so they need a scheme to get some money. Just so happens at their local mall in Oregon, at their mall, there's a whole money ball thing that you have to guess how much money is in this ball. It circulates around through air. They decide that they're going to rob the money from the ball. While it's happening, it's the basic premise of this. So to me, it's a lightly dated movie. It looked at you see it, but I'm going to talk about why I like that aspect of it. But I'm going to take it to you first, and then I'm going to go before we go into really breaking it down.
Well, I had never seen it, so this was my opportunity to check it out.
I really
and I've heard, of course, I heard about it, but it just wasn't a movie at the time that interested me, so I didn't go to see it in the theaters, and I never picked up on it in the ancillary markets and VHS and DVD and all of that. But I love the premise. The premise it's a great idea. You don't see that many women caper films,
especially back then.
Yeah, especially back then. Now it's much more common. But then, and obviously making it a very silly comedy was definitely the way to go. And I love the cast. I loved the concept. I thought it was interesting, but I love a caper movie anyway. I don't know what it is about them. I've just always been fascinated by them, because anytime you've got to figure out how to do something, grotesquely illegal, try to find a way to get away with it, and then of course somehow make your character sympathetic at the end if they do get away with it, that it's all okay, is quite, I think, quite an achievement. But no, it can't be really a complaint, because this is a dated film. It's a film from 1980, and it is about as 80s as you can get. Like, it really feels like a crossover of the late 70s, early 80s.
It definitely had the late 70s feel. It definitely did.
Yeah. I mean, in everything, it amazes me always how, I don't want to say period films, but what were contemporary films at the time, back in the 70s and 80s, just feel everything about them, from the music to the way they're shot. Of course, you can't help but see, all the cars are from that era. It's like your love of time travel must make you enjoy watching these movies, because you get to go back in time and really see what it was like to live in 1980. But yeah, going to the inflation thing, I wanted to make this point because I thought it's kind of interesting that you picked this movie now, because and I don't want to draw some major comparison to how difficult things were then, perhaps compared to how they are for so many people right now. But just to put it in a context, I'm not an economist by any stretch. I don't know that much about inflation and how it works and how bad generally it was in 1980. But I know I got my first mortgage for a house in 1981, and I paid 13.5% interest on it. So you talk about expensive. I mean, just to own a home, that's what you had to pay. So I really don't remember how expensive everything else was. So I'm looking at this movie saying, this is a real, like, legit, scenario that these women found themselves in, and that was their solution, was to rob this thing. But so my complaint is simply that it's dated. It doesn't hold up. But I still found myself enjoying it. I really did. It has great moments. All the actors are great in it, and the character actors, of course. And I agree with you. Fred Willard was unrecognizable. I kept saying, that is Fred Willard. I know it is, but he's so mellow and he's so normal. Right. It was very odd. It's just hard to believe that he was ever kind of just
funny, right? This funny guy.
Yeah, just a semi-normal supporting actor without all of that craziness that he embodied throughout most of his career. So yeah, that's my general thing. And I'll say, well, I don't know how we're going to go through this one. I don't have any. I mean, I have some comments to make about parts of it that just really and truly crack me up. But I found myself going along and saying, okay, they try to pull off this heist, and of course, everything that can go wrong goes wrong, which is part and parcel for this kind of a movie. But it somehow all got resolved at the end, and in a way that left me saying, you know what, I like the ending. I laughed very hard at the last scene. I thought the last scene was fantastic, the way they resolved it, but we can talk about that part later. So what is it you like so much about it?
But first I'm going to vent, which I forgot. I should have done this at the beginning of the at the beginning of the show. I'm going to vent here. Okay. I have to say to our audience, Ike and I decided, we're going to get a new logo. You may have seen it on our banners. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And we have a new logo and everything. And we decided we're going to start, wearing our logo proudly. We're going to do our pop culture retro. So here's the shirt. If you can see it here, pop culture retro. There's our new shirts. And Ike graciously actually bought me this shirt. He did buy this shirt. Hey, let's wear these together. And like, okay, Ike, yeah, sure, we're gonna do that. And one of us is wearing the shirt. One of us is a committed team player.
Yes. No, I'm guilty.
And it's not like he doesn't have the shirt, because he does. But let me hear your excuse again, because you gave it to me
wait a second. I bought mine, but I bought mine in the wrong size. And I just couldn't possibly wear it because it was too tiny, too small. I look like I'm in a leotard of some kind with a logo on it. And even though my wife said, no, you can get away with it, I just know I would be sitting here feeling like, oh my God, this is inappropriate. It's uncomfortable. I can't do it. So I have mine coming. By the time next time, hopefully we do another show, I will have mine on as well, and I will be wearing it proudly too.
When I first logged on today, and I saw that you weren't wearing the shirt, I think, okay, there's something wrong with the shirt, that maybe like I'm going to wear it later and there's going to be ink all over my body. And he didn't tell me this.
No, I'm not that kind of a prankster. I'm not that clever nor that cruel. But whether the thought crosses my mind or not. Yeah, so we hope you guys like our new logo and our new artwork. Yeah, I'm going to give a shout out to our very good friend Jan Eldridge's daughter, Savannah Eldridge. She did the artwork for us. She's an amazing new graphic artist, and we need to give her some more some shout outs on social media. But yeah, if anyone out there is looking for a very talented artist to do some work for him, she's great. She was awesome to work with, and we were thrilled with what she gave us. So we're excited.
Well, at least I was thrilled, it looks like. But anyway. Anyway, so back to the movie. Yes, back to the movie. This is what and I've mentioned this to you before. It's exactly because it's dated that I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it, and I looked at it, and again, it did bring me back to childhood. I watched it. I wasn't even a teen yet, probably when it first started watching it on cable. So I was enjoying it, and I did enjoy it now too. It's definitely dated. It definitely has, but like you just said, it has that feel. It has that late 70s movie feel, and there's no mistaking you. When you see a movie from that time period, you know it 100%. It's not just the cars, it's just the feel, the cinematography, everything, the look of it had that feel to it. So it did bring me right back to those times, and the majority of the movie takes place in this mall. And again, there's nothing more of that time period than the mall experience. So I was part of me was looking at the stores in the mall.
Yes,
right.
Tom McCann's shoes played a prominent part in the story, and I saw that sign pop up, and I thought, oh my God, that is because and I had to look it up online. They don't have storefronts anymore. They still sell shoes, believe it or not, but they don't have their stores anymore. That I don't know when that ended, but boy, that was a fixture, for sure.
That's exactly, and I love seeing all the stores. I love seeing everything. There's just everyone hanging out at the mall, which people still go to the mall. It's not like they stop, but it's not the same. It's not the same experience. So this was fun to me, and I love Dabney Coleman's part a lot, and Richard Benjamin. I love in everything Richard Benjamin. And I have to ask now. This is such a stupid question because it's like it's separating. It's an actor. How do you feel when you just see Eddie Albert played such a large, part in your I guess career? I mean, that's your most iconic role. Eddie Albert played a part of. How do you just feel watching him in other things? It's stupid because I know it's an actor, you can separate it, but this thing as a personal experience, what comes to you when you see Eddie Albert and things?
Well, that's a really great question, because I found myself saying, oh my gosh, I mean, such a different character for him. And later, of course, it was 5 years 6 years after Witch Mountain, so he's not that much older, but he's older enough. And it was weird. It was weird because spending so much time watching him in the Witch Mountain film over and over and over and over again, he's become trapped in that space for me, in that personality that of the character of Jason O'Day that he took on. So it's very trapped that way in my head. And all of a sudden it was like seeing Jason acting kind of like an ass. And so it was weird, but not unlike the curmudgeon he started out in Escape to Witch Mountain. So it was odd. I was used to seeing him in films that are older than that, like prior to, but not really much afterwards. I didn't necessarily follow his career and didn't know I can't even name another film that he was in after Witch Mountain. It's just not part of my my consciousness. So it was interesting to see him and but it kind of pulled me out. It did. It was weird. It
That's
was very
interesting.
weird. So that was a good question. It pulled me
I
out.
was
It's like,
wondering about that.
yeah, it's like, this is not just Eddie Albert, the actor. This is a character that I grew up with. That's part of my life. That's
Right.
now in another movie, and it was weird. So that was a really good question.
No, because I think you're like, he's tied into you in many ways. That's why, and that stayed with me while watching it too. Like, I told you, I forgot that he was in it.
Yeah.
When I suggested the movie,
Yeah.
I totally forgot. And then when he said, I was like, oh wow. And I said, I wonder how Ike feels watching this. And it occurred to me every single scene that he was in. So
Yeah.
it pulled me out a little bit too. But I was reading all about it. I'm sure you did too. I was reading all about the film itself, and it took like 10 years to get done. I don't know if you saw that part. So it was like the screenplay originally was like written in the early 70s.
Mhm.
And here were the names that they said originally it was like considered a vehicle for Goldie Hawn, Ally McGraw, and Barbara Streisand.
Oh,
That was one of their first,
wow. Okay. Yeah.
their first thoughts on this, and it kept going through like every movie does, who's in, who's attached, who's not. And it was only after Love at First Bite, also with Susan St. James, that got made. It's the same makers, that this was greenlit. So that was interesting to me as well.
Well,
So,
we've talked about this before, but that's usually how long it takes a movie to get made. 9 to 10 years from the time a screenplay is written and it goes through the machine, the sausage factory, if you will, and actually then turns into a product. It takes about 10 years. It doesn't matter what it is. Like Race to Witch Mountain was the same thing. I mean, and that was a remake, but that's how, and there's various reasons why this happens, but that seems to be the magic number. No one seems to know why, but it's very consistent, and it often doesn't matter who the filmmaker is or how powerful they are. Some things move faster, but on average 9 to 10 years. So that doesn't surprise me at all.
It was some of the other things in it were, I saw Jane Curtin's first movie, and I did love later on, again, I didn't really think about this at the time. Later on, both Jane Curtin and Susan St. James worked together in Kate and Ally, which I did enjoy that sitcom a lot. So they were together in that, and Jessica Lange worked with Dabney Coleman later on in Tootsie. So there are a lot of little things that of the people in it that did work with each other later on in other things. So that to me was interesting as well.
Oh yeah, no, most definitely. I mean, of course, these were the stars at the time. But Susan St. James, and I didn't really check to see how many movies she did, but she was primarily a television actress, if I'm not mistaken. So that was kind of interesting to me, because that period of time, it was tough for a lot of TV stars to get into movies, and movie stars didn't really do television. So yeah, it was interesting to see her in it at all. Jane Curtin was kind of obvious, because it seems like all the SNL people from the 70s were migrating into movies in one way, shape, or form. So yeah.
Well, what was interesting to me about Jane Curtin being in it, I mean, she was fresh off Saturday Night Live. So I was wondering if she was pitched this as like, a starring vehicle for, I mean, she is one of the stars, but she's not the star in this movie. She's just one of them. And if she was pitched as being a star in the movie, or how many offers she got, I mean, because it's the same year as Blues Brothers, this movie. So, so they went on to lead this huge film as well. And this movie did not do well. I just saw it made its money back. So it had, looking at it, I think the budget was like $4.5 million. It made $7.5 million, which is like mind-boggling to me, that a movie, just thinking about the numbers, today's numbers, that a movie's made for $4.5 million. But it was interesting. I did like seeing, like I said, Dabney Coleman played the love interest for Jane Curtin, and Fred Willard was Susan St. James, and Richard Benjamin was for Jessica Lange. And again, I enjoy Richard Benjamin in everything. I did enjoy him in this as well.
Yeah,
and,
no, I love Richard Benjamin. He's so awkward. and that's one of my favorite things about him. And he doesn't have any problem doing that. Dabney Coleman's odd to me because I can't. I I have a very difficult time looking at him as a love interest for anyone because he's just so smarmy, and he just plays that despicable character so well. I mean, 9 to 5 is of course one of my favorite movies that he's in, because that was his character. That was just he just did too good a job of that for me. So it was hard for me to look at him as a love interest to her. I couldn't quite figure it out, but I did like the way it worked out. But to that point, I had made a note about this, because when he's trying to come on to her and he's having coffee in front of her fireplace and she's invited him in, it was just the most cringeworthy love scene I've ever seen. I just had to go, oh God, he's not really saying this to her, and she's not really going to buy this, is she? And it was just like that was again part of the time, kind of how these relationships were portrayed in movies. And it just fascinated me, because you would never have a scene like that in anything today. I mean, it's either I wouldn't even know how to qualify it. And I don't want to go into too much detail, because it just I don't know. I just found it strange. And even the stuff in the cars when they're on Overlook Point or whatever, and everyone's making out and they're having these conversations about sex that are just so comfortable. And I am not a prude by any stretch. It's just that they almost didn't go far enough for me. And I think a little bit of this reason why I think this missed was when you got a comedic talent like Jane Curtin, and she's very much part of carrying this picture, and you hold her back. I don't know why they would do that. I don't know why they would do that. I mean, she she really did play a perfect, attractive, motivated, confused character in this. But I wanted to see her funnier. I mean, Susan St. James, it was almost like that should have been her part, because that was a funnier role. But I don't know. The whole thing, it was like the whole thing was 2 notches down from where I felt like it should have been. It should have gone further over the top, and then I think the mishaps and the silly situations could have been more enjoyable. But that's just a taste thing, probably from my perspective.
I'm trying to figure out what movie it reminded me of a lot, just look wise, I guess. But I can't. But like I said, we talked about it before. It definitely had that 70s feel, but it reminded me a lot of other films of the time in just, like I said, tone. So it's not coming to me which film it reminded me of. But yeah, I would agree with some of the things. A lot of the conversations that they had in the movie, I mean, were definitely tailored to make it, try to be funny. But I don't think a lot of the same conversations, like you said today, even to the extent that they went talking about sex and things, would be in a mainstream movie today. I think today it would be much more toned down than what they did then.
Oh yeah. Oh no, I agree. That's what I'm saying. It was a it's an interesting period of time in film history, just how these topics and subject matters were handled. I mean, you think about the 70s, movies in the 70s, they used to talk about their gratuitous nudity. If you didn't have a naked woman show up somewhere in your movie, you didn't have a movie.
This has as well.
It does. For a brief moment, it does. Which was shocking to me. Actually, I just went, oh, okay. Oh my God. How interesting. Again, not something you would see today, but there is a new trend in entertainment that's going, very sexy, very graphic, that I have yet to experience, and so we'll just leave that at that. But it's just interesting how these things, just historically how they've been handled. I mean, going back to what was it, the 30s, when was it Greta Gable no, oh shoot, the Clark Gable in a film, like the first time a woman's leg was ever seen in a movie, she pulled up her skirt to stop to to
Right.
help hitch a ride on the street, and this was like so shocking.
Right.
And then before you knew it, you were seeing women's legs everywhere because obviously it sold tickets. So I know how these things go; they go in these weird cycles. But I found it. I just found the whole matter in which they were discussing this strange. It was so strange.
But I mean, it did have its funny moment. A lot. It had more than its share. I mean, I thought it had a lot of funny moments in it too.
Oh yeah.
I totally believed the method how they would get the cape, the steal the money. I totally bought that, how it could be possible. So I did buy that aspect. I was like thinking, as I was watching going in, I was like, all right, this is going to be not exactly as I remembered from a kid. Maybe it's going to be ludicrous, but I still bought the method that they would use. Later on, I didn't buy everything there, but like you said at the beginning of this, it was one of those things that, how you can root for a thief because it all worked out in their favor at the end. That they're not necessarily that the bad people, because it did work out in their favor at the end. I don't know if we should go into spoilers there, because part of the reason is that we do want people to watch the forgotten films that we're talking about, but they came away clean. They with their hands clean. So.
Yeah. Well, it's how that ends up spilling, working its way out that it's worth watching for. But what I loved, I mean, of course, I'm waiting for, okay, how does each one, now that they're resolving the relationships, and now the question's going to be asked, where did you get the money? I mean, Jessica Lange ended up not needing it, so right. it's stuffed away for future use. And but Susan St. James' character and Fred Willard at the end, I just thought it was absolutely hilarious, where he says, but no, where did you get the money? And she just says, we stole it, and just lays it all out, exactly what happened. And he doesn't believe her. That was fantastic. I thought that was fantastic. He just insisted she was lying and making up a story, and that was how we go out with it. It's like, okay, you know what? I have a satisfied ending, so it was worth the awkwardness I went through in some moments in it, for that. So, spoiler alert, I don't know how many people are going to run out and rent this after they watch this show, but no. But it's not that much of a spoiler, because obviously, given the premise, they're either going to get away with it or not get away with it. In a comedy, you can't have three attractive women in prison, over what they've done, and their lives ruined and their children's lives ruined. So it's got to go that direction.
Right,
come on.
They did all have. Well, two of them had kids, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, only one of them.
No, just one. Just one. Susan St. James.
Yeah, just one.
Yeah, had right. Children.
So but you said there was some scenes that in particular that stuck out to you. Which scenes in particular?
Oh no, I mean just moments. Like when okay, and I don't know the character name, so it was Susan St. James' character. They're going through this training phase of the heist, when the three women have figured out that they each need to try to do something illegal to see if they're psychologically ready to steal this money, which I thought was, that's what women would do, right? Men don't do that. You sign up for it, you do the job, you get whacked if you don't. But with women, it's like, no, let's make sure we're emotionally ready for this. And so her job is she's got to go to a grocery store and rob the cashier with a little handgun. And she goes through the entire store and fills her cart up with all this food. And I'm looking out at the food, the meats, the produce, and all this stuff. And as she's going through the meat aisle, she reaches over and grabs a package. And I swear, I'm trying to hold this up to see if it makes sense. A package this freaking big that looks like it's got half of a salmon in it. I mean, cut off at the middle, cut off at the tail, skin is on the whole thing. I mean, it was just like, oh my gosh. I mean, that's one big hunk of fish, and she throws it in the cart. And I thought, this is fantastic. You don't see that anymore. You don't see, it was just like the big hunks of meat. Like people used to buy just huge amounts of food back in those days. And I just thought, I mean, that was contemporary, right? So, I mean, I'm looking back on it now historically and finding it incredibly humorous. But I thought that I just thought that was hilarious, and it was just little things like that scattered out over the whole thing. But again, going back to the mall culture, if we want to call it that, look, I grew up in that for sure. My social life wasn't based on it, but I used to go to the mall all the time. My brother and I would go and, you know, hang out, and it was a place where young people hung out a lot. And you don't, yeah, you've seen that change dramatically over the decades. So it was very nostalgic for me to see it. And I don't know if did you read what mall they actually used? Because I didn't recognize it.
It was, I forgot what, you know, I can check it out, but it was a mall in Oregon. Oregon, whatever. And
because I don't think they shot the film in Oregon. They shot the mall in Oregon, because I recognized
it was filmed there. They said it was filmed there.
Really?
That's what it was,
okay.
Yeah, they said
that's interesting, because so much of it looks like Los Angeles, and in the homes that would be in the Hollywood Hills overlooking the San Fernando Valley, which is used. They're used an awful lot in movies, and it looks so much like it that I thought, oh, they probably shot this in the valley, but they, you know, really? Went to somewhere else for the.
I'm almost positive that that's what I read. That I have to look, that it was filmed there, and they selected that mall because specifically it was nearby a river, which was crucial to the plot of the movie.
Yeah. So, that's a big deal. Yeah. If they didn't have that, they wouldn't have been able to figure out how they were going to get away with the money.
Right. So that was one of the main reasons why they picked that location. I was reading, which was again very interesting to me. They went mall hunting just for one feature, and I think that was one of the few that they found that actually had that. I should look it up. I should have prepared where it was, but I think
yeah, and you know, my tendency to be overly critical about things. I couldn't suspend my disbelief for how they access that area under, because basically what they do is there's the big giant ball in the middle. It's in the middle from the interior of the mall. It's in the middle of the mall, but they managed to find these underground passages where they can get underneath it, drill a hole in it, and extract the money that way, and then send the money out to the river on the and when they actually go to do the heist, all of a sudden you notice that where Jessica Lange is taking the money out is within 30 feet of the river. And yet when they show you the mall, it's a good football field away. So you, in your head, you're thinking, okay, wait a minute, no, this can't work. So those kind of things tend to disrupt even my passive enjoyment of something like that. So that was a little problematic for me, but hey,
here it is, the Valley River Center in Eugene, Oregon.
Okay. Yeah, because I know I didn't, you know, LA does not have any malls that are near rivers, not even the LA River. So that wouldn't have worked, but it's interesting. Yeah.
And I'm trying to think what else it said about it here. I'm looking it up right now as we speak. 85 modern, right, the Valley River Center shopping mall as well. And there were like, they showed all the restaurants where they went there. But yeah, it looks like it was filmed all around that location.
Well, it's amazing how much like the San Fernando Valley that place looks, at least to my eye.
Sets were constructed in several warehouses located in the city and environs of Eugene.
There you go.
And meanwhile, though, what I did love, the movie was shot entirely in Eugene. So what I did love is that they're all struggling for money, and all their homes were really nice.
Oh yeah, well, no, I was going to get into that too. It's like there are these gorgeous houses, and you know, Jane Curtin lives alone in this huge place. It's spectacular with this view, you know, this view of a valley, and she can't afford her $29 power bill. I mean, that's just so funny. But I thought that was. I'm tough with when it comes to comedies, I don't laugh out loud. It's like I get that warm fuzzy chuckle inside, and I think, oh gosh, that's funny. Yeah, that's funny. I like that. But this moment made me laugh out loud completely, because yes, Jane Curtin's character, she has to leave her house to start her part of the heist, and her power gets shut off because she didn't pay her bill, and she's in her garage and she can't open the door. And she's trying to resolve the situation with the power company so she can get her garage door open, and she can't. They shut her down on it. So she just drives her car out. She just blows the door open with her car. And that really made me laugh out loud. I thought, that's not something you expect a woman to do, but a female character to do, but one who's determined. It's like, no, I'm doing what I have to do. I'm getting there, and nothing's going to stop me. And she just explodes her own garage door. I just thought that was great. I thought that was really funny.
So overall, what do you rate the film? And you happy you saw it?
Yeah. Oh, I'm always happy to see something. Always. Because, as I bring up all the time, my work in ADR, which I believe we've decided we're going to do a show about, because it's a very fascinating end of the filmmaking industry that I'm hoping our listeners and our audience would be curious about. I worked on over 1,000 movies, so I had to see 1,000 movies. And believe me, movies no one wants to see, no one ever should see, and very few people did see. And yet I had to watch them. So I feel like, as a storyteller, or at least someone, I'm not overly eloquent about my criticisms, but I've seen so many bad movies, and you learn so much more about how to tell a good story when you experience a really bad one. And if you do it enough, then you see enough good ones, then you can start to kind of put together entirely on your own without having to study it at all. You start to see what the things are, the failings of these other films. And so I never regretted having to sit down and watch these movies. It became tedious a lot, but it was part of my job, so I had to do it. So therefore, I was forced to experience them. So I do not mind when it comes to entertainment. I'm not going to make my wife sit through it, because I tried to get her to watch this, and nope, she was on her phone in 10 minutes. I said, it's okay. This is part of my job. You don't have to finish it. I'll finish it tomorrow morning, or later tonight on my own. It's okay. So in terms of entertainment, I'll kill movies left and right. I've been shocked at some of the major films that I've had zero interest in watching. I mean, just the other night we were tried to watch Gangs of New York, which I've never seen. And I mean, this is a Martin Scorsese film. I couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand it. I couldn't get past the first 16, 18 minutes of it. I just thought, oh gosh, I just don't know if I can do two hours and 15 minutes of this kind of storytelling. And I didn't enjoy it. So I didn't watch it. But when I do, have an obligation to sit down and make sure I watch it for something like this, it's fun for me. So that's my long explanation of no, didn't regret watching it one bit. I'd give it a 3 out of 5, which I think is good enough to get people, and again, it's now a contemporary period film, and it's got all the trappings and all the eccentricities of that, which I think is makes it enjoyable. So yeah.
One of the things that you mentioned, this is what I do like about this, that I'm open to I get to see new films that I haven't seen. I think all the ones that you picked so far, I had not seen. So that's good. It forces the same thing. It forces me to see films that I have not seen before, and I find it interesting. And you will not be thanking me the next film. I guarantee you will not be thanking me the next film that I pick. But you told me the same thing there, so I don't feel bad. But on your end.
Yep. So. Yep. You're not going to be comfortable with it, but you might like it. Yeah. So More will be revealed, as they say.
Right, exactly. But I said the same. I watched it again. Like I said, this is the first time I've seen it, and really, it's over 30 years since I've seen it, and so I probably a little bit more, probably closer to 35 actually. But I was along this. I was thinking scale 1 to 10, so I gave it a 7. So I'm right around in the same ballpark as you are.
Oh, I was 3 out of 5. So yeah, okay. I didn't know what our scale was. We got to get that worked out. Yeah.
So it's pretty much the same. I enjoyed it. I would recommend people see it. It's an amusing movie, and it's, like I said, it is a bit dated, but it was an amusing movie to me. And I am glad that I got to see it again. So it did relive memories for me, and it was fun for me to go back and see something from my childhood again.
Well, yeah, definitely. I enjoyed watching it for sure.
Well, let us know in the comments what you thought, if you liked the movie, didn't like the movie, or remember the movie even. And, but we definitely recommend go watching it. And again, this has been Pop Culture Retro. I'm Jonathan Rosen, along with Ike Eisenmann, and please subscribe.
Thank you for listening to Pop Culture Retro, where no one was hurt during the making of this podcast.